Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Mélissa de Roquebrune. I am the Executive Director of SPP, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the fourth hour of World Sustainable Procurement Day 2024. So this session, Accelerating the Sustainable Transformation Through Upskilling at Scale, is going to be a really wonderful session. But before I jump into that, just a little bit of housekeeping to keep us in order and keep us going. This session is being recorded, and I will ask you to take a moment and look at our netiquette, which does apply across all SPP platforms and events, and that'll be in the chat function on the right for you to be able to link to that. And all our events also adhere to antitrust regulations for this event and all other events. Excuse me if I stutter. It is 4 a.m. for me, but I'm really happy to be here and to be hosting this. So if you have any questions through this session or through any of the other sessions today, do use that chat function. We want this to be interactive and we want to be hearing from you. We have a lot to get through in this session. Let me start right away so that we can get through all of it for you. We have been hearing from the community, from all of you, that you want tools, you want resources, you want some practical solutions to help you get started and accelerate your work on embedding sustainability. This session is going to be all about giving you some of those tools. At SPP, you're going to hear us say a lot that we believe that 80%, maybe more, of all knowledge, best practices, resources are already somewhere or being developed by someone. And we want to stop replication. We want to use our connection, our collaboration, these platforms to start using each other's knowledge so that we can do our work faster, because our goal to embed sustainability by 2030 means that we have just over 2,000 days to get that done. So we need to start doing that a lot faster. Today, we're going to turn that megaphone to accelerate that work on two sources of practical support that are available to you. But I'm also going to remind you that through all the session, we're encouraging everybody to put some of the resources from these sessions into the library that you can go look at and find. This platform will be open to you for the next 2 weeks, so go look at that. But also for you as speakers, and we have over 99 speakers across these sessions in the next 24 hours, so there are a lot of you sharing knowledge. Whether you're a speaker or you're a participant and you have knowledge to share, we have what we call the guide, which is a collection of tools, case studies, lessons learned, what's worked, what hasn't. That is open for you to go share some knowledge also. So please do take a minute to go look at that on our website. And if you have a case to share, share it. If you just want to see the cases that are already there, go and read through those. It's a wonderful tool. We have two speakers, as I mentioned. We're going to jump into the first session, which is a pre-recorded session that I recorded this afternoon for you when I was a little bit fresher. And then we're going to come back live and hear from Kai, and we're going to have a truly interactive session. So get ready to be part of this. There is a part of this where we're going to need your feedback and your participation. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my earlier self today. Hello, Shaun. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much for inviting me.
Lovely to have you here. Shaun, let me start by saying you have had a very impressive career in sustainability. I know that we want to use our time today to focus on some of the tools that you're sharing with us and some of the resources, but I do have to start by highlighting some of your career achievements. You are the founder of Action Sustainability. You are the chair of the Supply Chain Sustainability School. You chaired IEMA Professional Standards. You have served as Sustainability Advisor to the Board of Transportation of London. And you've been recognized by the Queen for your work on London Olympics in 2012, where you played a key role in developing the Center for Sports and Human Rights. I haven't mentioned everything you've done, but wow, that is an impressive career. Can we start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, about this career, and maybe just sharing some of the reflections that you would have for our day today and for the guests who are tuning in.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess if I go way back into ancient history, I've done a variety of things. I started life as an engineer. I was a very bad one. And then I had 20 odd years in very large corporates in procurement. And certainly in the later years in BAA, the airport company in the UK, I got more and more involved in the sustainability agenda, both environmentally and socially, and started to develop this concept of sustainable procurement and the way that we can use the power of procurement to really deliver on sustainability outcomes. That led me to get involved in the UK government Sustainable Procurement Task Force in 2005, which published its paper in 2006. I was also part of the Mayor of London's Sustainable Development Commission, which led me to the role on the London Olympics, chairing something called the Commission for Sustainable London 2012. And so in 2006, I basically didn't have time to have a job anymore, so I packed it all in, started Action Sustainability, which is a business that's all about sustainable procurement. And I also took the role reporting to the Mayor of London and the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, providing an independent oversight body looking at the sustainability of the London Olympics. I did those two things in parallel for 8 years. The Olympics role was theoretically 3 days a week, but in reality, it was probably 2 full-time jobs. I guess, and we'll talk a little about, action sustainability and what we do and what we do now later, no doubt. In terms of kind of takeaways from my career, what key messages would I give to people? I suppose don't be afraid to change. I've changed direction, many times. If something doesn't quite suit or there's another opportunity coming along, don't be afraid to put the past behind and change. And I certainly have, and don't regret it.
I think that's a great point, as we're coming together to try and change a whole profession. So that's an important message for all of us. As we're looking, everybody is looking for information, for resources, for tools. We're all looking to start upskilling. Personally, we're looking to upskill our teams and our suppliers. We're really at a moment in that change for the profession where we're looking at how to embed sustainability. Could you maybe share with us some of those tools and some of those resources that you would have for our community?
Yeah, sure. There are 2 key sites which I can show you if I can do a quick share, which hopefully will help the community really understand the how. First of all, sustainable procurement for me needs a strategic framework. It's not just about putting stuff in a tender or having some evaluation criteria. That's very, very kind of old school. And I worked on the UK government Sustainable Procurement Task Force. We produced something called the Flexible Framework in 2006. Then there was the world's first official standard for sustainable procurement, BS 8903 in 2010. My business were technical authors of that standard. And then I led the UK delegation in developing the ISO 2400 standard, which was a period 2013 to 2017 when the standard was published. What came out of that was our not-for-profit initiative, which I'll just share the site with you if I can. ISO2400.org. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so this is the site. We don't really have time to go through it in a great deal of detail, but this is something that's supported by sustainable procurement experts from, I think, 19 different countries. Many were part of the original committee that developed the standard. And there's lots of multilingual tools, techniques, case studies, etc. You can also do a self-assessment against your alignment with the standard by answering 20 questions online. We have over 1,000 benchmarks now, so we've got quite a good global view of benchmarks, and you can look at that by sector, by country, by size of business. So we're starting to build up a body of intelligence based on self-assessments. Now, what ISO 2400 says you need to do is you start with a policy, a strategy, some form of translation of your corporate or government aims, if you're public sector, into language that your suppliers can understand. What is it you actually expect your suppliers to do? And then to prioritize those aims through the categories of supply, because not all sustainability impacts play into every single category. So really understand where the priorities are, and then you can start to do the procurement stuff, where you do your market research, you put the sustainability requirements into the contracts and the tenders, etc. Inevitably, what you will find, and in my experience of doing this for 20 odd years, is now your supply chain isn't competent to deliver on your sustainability objectives, and it's key and it's universal. And everywhere in the world that I've worked, it suddenly becomes, oh dear me, I was about to use a bad word then, but I won't. We've got suppliers that don't understand us or can't do what we want. Or you get into a situation where you're narrowing down your supply chain because you're only selecting suppliers that have good sustainability credentials, and you're leaving out those that don't. Well, what happens then? You end up with a smaller pool of suppliers. Basic economics says if I have a demand and a small number of suppliers, the price will go up. Mm-hmm. And that's what will happen. So what we do in the supply chain sustainability school, which I'll show you in a moment, is we're looking to upskill an entire sector in the UK construction industry. And we're also looking to expand that internationally as well, because we need to build a competent pool of competitive suppliers. I always say that sustainability should not cost you more, but bad procurement will. So it's all about upskilling the supply chain in order to have that competitive pool of suppliers that can work with you to the future of zero carbon or social value or whatever it is you're trying to deliver. So it's good business sense. This is not green, fluffy, nice stuff. This is really what organizations need if we are going to take our supply chains with us in developing a sustainable future.
No, absolutely. I think we agree that it is both the right thing to do and what we want to do, and the community who comes into WSPD is convinced that this is important to do. But as you say, it's also good business sense to be doing that. What has been the biggest impediment to bring the supply chain along?
I guess it's knowledge and skills, really. Mm-hmm. I think it's, and also I suppose it's that kind of whole value chain thinking. As I said earlier, bad procurement becomes a factor in doing this. And I think if I look back to sustainable procurement practice of the past, way back in my corporate past in procurement, I was given, the environment department would give me this questionnaire for all the suppliers to fill in, and I put 5% weighting factor on the evaluations, and nothing would change. Nothing actually happens as a result of that. So this whole thinking about being very clear about your goals and understanding then how they can be built into procurement processes and contracts is very important. But then managing that relationship with the suppliers and supporting the suppliers in acquiring the skills that they need is something that really doesn't happen and hasn't happened in the past. So that's where we started the supply chain school in 2012. Originally, Skanska came to us with a challenge as consultants. Our supply chain is not competent to deliver on our sustainability objectives, partly because they were required to do so on the London Olympics, which was another me thing as well. And that's where we invented the concept of the school. But what we said was, this is too big for you, Skanska. That there are probably a handful of organizations in the world big enough to take on the challenge of upskilling an entire sector. So we started the school with 7 partners, organizations that traditionally competed with each other and were prepared to work together, and they did. And now we've built the school, we have 227 partners, all contributing both financially and intellectually to what we do. And then we deliver all of the content that we deliver, over 3,000 learning resources, 400 events a year, over 100 e-learning modules, we deliver it all free of charge, because what we don't want to do is add cost to the supply chain.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you know, I'm all about radical collaboration. So seeing people coming together in this way and collaborating on this is both in line with what I do and what SPP does. So it's great to have this resource available to the community. The 4 a.m. version of me will be putting into the chat the links to that first resource, so everybody can go find you and find out more about how they can use that tool. Wonderful. Thank you. And I know that you have another tool for us today as well that you wanted to present.
Yeah, let's just do a quick share of
the
supply chain school that I just spoke about. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so this is the home page of the school. We obviously don't have time to do a full demo, but anybody can join the school as what I would call a member. Anybody in the world. We just ask you to sign up, give us a bit of information about who you are, where you are, what you do, etc. It is a UK, we market the products in the UK, we deliver it in the UK. We have parallel schools in Australia and in France. We're working on schools in, also we have a school in Ireland very recently, and we're working on schools in United States, India, Nordics, and possibly a more detailed sustainability school in France. So you can find your way through the site very easily, find your way to resources very easily. So you can, if you click on resources for you, you can you get like a drop down list of topics that you might want to explore, not just sustainability technical topics now. We have a whole range. Lean construction management, operational efficiency, various other topics that we provide, and then you can filter down and find the resources that you want. You can do a self-assessment, so you can assess your current knowledge of sustainability, and the system will give you an action plan of 10 things to work on. There are also multiple learning pathways on the school, and this is a really good example of good procurement that I was talking about earlier. One of our partners, National Highways, has a whole series of learning pathways that they put out there in public that they expect not only their current suppliers to do, but their potential suppliers. So if you're interested in doing business with National Highways, get on the school, do the learning pathway, download the badge, put it in the tenders, because that's what National Highways are expecting. And that's what I was talking about earlier in terms of good procurement. What National Highways are doing is building a cohort of potential suppliers that are sustainability competent even before they get the contract. And that for me is good procurement. That's best practice in procurement. The school site enables our partners to do that. It also enables them to track what their suppliers are doing. So you can load up your key suppliers onto the school if you're a partner, and then you can have access to the partner dashboard, and that gives you incredible granular detail of what your suppliers are actually learning. You can feed that into your supplier relationship management process in working with your suppliers to build their competence and build their knowledge. So it's something very much for those that really have an interest in strategic supply chain management and working with suppliers in the long term. And it's free of charge.
Wonderful. And you do mention that it's mostly UK based, but there are a lot of resources there that are of value to people around the world. Is that right?
Yeah, we don't market, for instance, we don't market the school in the United States, but we have more than 10% of our traffic to the site is actually from USA. So people do come to the school from all over the world. The ISO 2400.org that I showed you earlier, that is very international and extremely global. But yes, people do visit. A lot of the content is generic. I mean, the carbon cycle is the carbon cycle, and human rights risks are human rights risks. There are other things that are more local, waste, where legislation and facilities, etc., vary around the world. But a lot of our e-learning content is generic. It's just, you need to put up with English accents and pictures of guys in hard hats and welly boots on construction sites. But much of the content that we have is generic. We also have short videos. So there's over 40 videos of less than 5 minutes, which people really like, that just give you an introduction. One, for instance, on science-based targets. So, you know, when you're at the coffee machine and somebody talks about science-based targets, at least you know what it is. And then if you want to learn some more, you can do the full e-learning and you can really get into it. But that's the purpose of those short videos, that people can just get a flavor of some of these topics that they need.
Great. So the takeaways is there are tools, many videos, great starting points that are available to everybody for free. So go dig into that and use it. It's a great starting point for us to start having common language and approaches to collaborate on these topics. We agree that sustainability is not only the right thing to do, but it makes good business sense. I think that's something that you've brought up a few times, and we absolutely agree. And I think if we're going to change a profession, it has to be from that perspective as well. And now we just need to figure out how to do it fast, because 2030 is 2,100 days away, or something like that I was looking up the other day. It's really soon. So the more that we can align on some of this learning, the better. And thank you for sharing these tools. We'll definitely have them in the chat of this session. We'll make them available also in the library for WSPD over the next few days, which will be available to everybody who's been here. Thank you, Shaun. Thank you for joining us. I am now going to jump back to the live version of myself coming to you from 4 a.m. With more information of more tools for you. Hopefully, I'm not looking too tired in that other version of myself. If any of you want to get in touch with Shaun and learn more and the team there, please do. There are a lot of resources for you to really be digging into. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much. Enjoy 4 a.m.
Thank you so much.
And just like that, we're back. I hope everybody can hear me. I want to extend another thank you to Shaun. He really wanted me to convey to all of you that he is excited for the SPP community to take advantage of the tools that he has there. There are many tools that are free and accessible and a great place to start. I think through the sessions in the last few hours, we've heard a few times that what we need to do is just get started, not wait for it to be perfect, not wait for the plans, but just take that first step. And many of the videos that he has, I was digging through some of that, have a lot of those practical steps for you to do just that and to get started. So please do go take advantage of that. So through the magic of technology, we're back. Nobody enjoys listening to themselves speak. So after hearing myself for the last 17 minutes, I'm going to keep this quite brief. I would like to introduce Kai, who's joining us from AXA Climate School, who's also awake with me in the middle of the night to join us for this session. And Kai is going to take you through more practical tools, more solutions. And this is where I need all of you to get active, because it's going to be an interactive tool, a moment for you to be part of the session. We are just bringing you a couple tools that are here, but please dig into the community and the relationships that you can build there, because there are a lot of other resources that are available to you. So with that, Kai, thank you for being here. Let me pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Mélissa. And also from my side, a very early good morning to everyone tuning in live from Paris, France. Happy to be here and speak at WSPD. As Mélissa has mentioned, this will be an interactive session. So now in the first few minutes, I will quickly run you through how accelerating the sustainable transformation through training at scale can work, why it is essential. And then also in the second part of this session, we will have an interactive quiz where I do need your interaction, and it'll be a fun live session. So let's start off with the first few minutes where we will talk about how you can accelerate the sustainable transformation through training at scale in your organization. And I hope you can see my screen well. Well, my name is Kai. I'm from the AXA Climate School. We are based here in Paris, available internationally across the globe, already now working with more than 130 clients, from also now like the WSPD stream going east to west from APAC to Europe, Africa, and the Americas. We have clients that we work with. Essentially, what we do at the AXA Climate School is that we offer comprehensive and engaging sustainability training content through which companies can really engage and upskill all of their employees in their organization to accelerate the transformation. Well, before jumping into how you can do it and what role procurement plays, since also today here a lot of procurement professionals, let's look at why is it actually essential now to accelerate? Where do we stand? And when we look at where do we stand, looking at the latest version of the climate action tracker, so looking at what countries are globally aligned with the 1.5 degrees goal, you see that unfortunately still to this day, no country is currently aligned on track with the 1.5 degrees goal that was agreed to in 2015 in the Paris Agreement. Secondly, we also look at planetary boundaries. As you may know, planetary boundaries are those boundaries that regulate the stability of our Earth system, climate change being one of 9 planetary boundaries. And in 2023, last year, we have could quantify 9 boundaries by the Stockholm Resilience Center, and 6 of the boundaries have been crossed. Well, then at the same time, we look at, okay, so where do our CO2 emissions come from? And here, when we look at, for instance, that we see split up that 60% comes from industry, so from companies, power generation, and well, all of us where we are part of the corporate world, residential transport with 30% and 10% from deforestation. This is where emissions come from. Now you may ask, okay, where do they actually end up in? Well, as you also know, maybe 50% of that ends up in our natural carbon sinks, so our global oceans and vegetations, that you see end up in our natural carbon sinks. That is the services our planet does for us for free. But you also see that, okay, there is a problem that 50% ends up in the atmosphere, driving global warming. And at the same time, you see here, hey, we as coming from companies in the corporate world, we have a large responsibility to play, that at least 60% of emissions come from the corporate world. So you see here that we have a responsibility to act, and we have where we can take that role now and really drive that. And at the same time, you see that in organizations, 7 out of 8 employees want to act, but lack the skills to do so. Similarly, also green companies or sustainable companies with sustainable practices are more likely to gain above average financial value. And there's also a lot of advantages by having all your employees trained and having more sustainable practices in your organization. Then it's just a question, okay, now knowing all of that, now knowing, I hope you can see the slides well though. Okay, knowing all of that is now just about, okay, how do you want to deal with sustainability in your organization? So do you want to deal with it on a compliance focus? So you have maybe one department dealing with sustainability that is only moving once regulation will ask you to do so. Do you want to deal with sustainability as a project where you have the CSR department and maybe another team involved on that? Or do you want to embed sustainability and deeply anchor sustainability in all your corporate practices? So really from your upstream supply chain to your downstream supply chain, your own operations activities, and really make sustainability part of every decision you do. And how to get there, right? So here, and also talking to you in this community, this is where we want to get to embedded sustainability. So how can we do that? Well, in the end, to get to embedded sustainability through company-wide training, this is really about, okay, to create an on-hand climate culture, so to say, where you do train your entire organization. And we've also seen now from Shaun, also with great tools available for that. You have amazing live training sessions available, resources that are already out there. And I'm sure the community here knows best also what sources are out there. There's in-person workshops, executive trainings, and also online courses that are available to create a climate culture, really make sustainability part of everyday decisions, and like that also build up the internal capacities that will allow you in the future now to be more independent from external help and really also build up the capacities and the knowledge, the skills in your organization. What's important here maybe is that you tailor the training materials to the respective target groups in your organization, as this will allow you to identify, okay, I have maybe people working in sales, I have people working in executive roles, people working in factories, people in my procurement department, and really try to see what needs are there and tailor the materials that you have to those target groups. Lastly, it's very important that you make sustainability. As we all know, this topic can be sometimes very complex and somewhere floating in the air. Make it tangible and really also actionable for your employees. And one example here is how we do it at the AXA Climate School, as offering engaging e-learning content. And how we do it is that we break down our e-learning content into 3 different levels to make it really hands-on and actionable to the employees of our clients. Which meaning we go from the planet level, where we provide with the scientific basics and give a holistic view, having looked at planetary boundaries, going down to the company level, where we provide all the strategic corporate contents, and then also going one step further down in order to make it really day-to-day for your employees, for your colleagues, where we talk about breaking environmental sustainability down to the respective job. So what does it mean if you work in HR, IT, and of course, procurement? So what role does procurement have, and how does the procurement training look like that we offer? Well, as you know, procurement, you are here, and that's why I'm happy to speak to you. You are here in a very influential decision and can really take actively role in your organization. Because as you know, Scope 3 generates 11 times more CO2 than a company's own operations. So it can really be up to 90% of your emissions. At the same time, you are like the captain, because you are the crucial upstream starting point in your organization that starts the entire journey along your value chain, and also the start of your GHG emissions. Lastly, as we've also seen earlier, that procurement decisions are a lot more than just impacting topics like climate, but also multiple other planetary boundaries, from biodiversity, freshwater, and land system change. And here on the right-hand side, you see now some extracts from our procurement course that we offer. Maybe as a little already heads up, we offer now for the session participants here, I will upload a link to the library. We will offer a free access to our procurement course so that you can have a look in depth for yourself. And then after this session, can check out how this course will look like. I will upload the resource as we speak here right now. I'll add the resource link, and then you can have a look afterwards. And to make it really actionable now for you in this session, I brought to you a quick summary points of how that could look like. And now it's available in the library section. Giving you the hands-on tools, what can you do now in your everyday activity as a sustainable procurer? What can you do, and how can you implement that in your organization? This is now 4 blocks of our procurement course that is here now the extract of the entire module that we have. And this is the points you can take and now directly go to your job and say, okay, I want to implement those 4 blocks. First question, and happy that Shaun was talking about it earlier, ask with those 4 basic questions, as in ISO 2400, and happy to see that Shaun was part of that. Always ask those 4 questions early in the procurement process. What need am I meeting? What am I buying? Who am I buying it from? And in what way? To make it really, as a starting point, have those basic questions in mind. Second block, look at how you can actively involve your suppliers. Really treat organizations, your supplying network, as part of your organizations. Try to see to get maybe the early and easy points out of the way. Ask for certifications. There are many renowned and independent organizations out there that do that for you, such as EcoVadis or CDP. At the same time, look at how you can support them in actual decarbonization activities. And I see that the slides are very small, I'm being told. So maybe let me try to share the screen again. Okay, but the slides apparently don't get bigger. Okay, I will run you through this as you maybe cannot see the slides properly. that you involve your suppliers, support them in actual decarbonization actions by securing them with long-term contracts, being transparent with them, and by that also allow them to actually do decarbonization activities. And there's examples of, for example, Heineken, who already does that, that allows their, for example, being very dependent on agricultural products, to allow their farmers, which is their scope 3, to apply low carbon practices, and by that actively reducing their scope 3. Thirdly, how can you involve your suppliers? Well, you can train them. We've seen also earlier some resources for that. Also, many of our clients, they do not only use the AXA Climate School for their own company, but also involve them, their scope 3, so they supplier network, and by that actively also address their scope 3. And if nothing works in the end, also be bold enough to look at, okay, if not any of these actions work, also look around and try to see whether you can change your supplier. Third point, to keep this quick, you can also raise the bar. So also be bold enough to see that you can lead this action, you can design fair contracts, make them available publicly, transparently, and also allow your suppliers to invest sustainably. This could mean that you allow them for long-term commitment, secure prices over a certain time period, so that they can also act sustainably in their own way. The last point here, align with peers and competitions to set universal standards. I do see that the SPP is the big player in that regard, that you are here live to set common standards so that you can apply those standards to other suppliers in a universal way, to have maybe either sector-specific criteria or even universal criteria to go with your suppliers. And lastly, I know this point can be a little challenging, but I do want to mention this, that you are a sustainable procurement specialist. You are supposed to buy every day in large quantities and as the best way you can. But also think about the last point. What if we all and you bought less? So the demand coming from your colleagues, which are your internal clients, when you are supposed to do a procurement process, question this need. You are allowed to question that need and really challenge the person. Do we need that in that quantity to that extent? That is very valid. And also think about, okay, circular economy principles, maybe to reduce, reuse, and refurbish what's already there. And also to see, okay, what are potential new business models that I could use? And there's many real life cases for that. For instance, also aluminium producer Novelis, which is part of our course that you would see, where they, instead of this aluminium producer buying virgin materials, more and more recycling older aluminium materials, and by that having its own recycling factory. So instead of buying new virgin materials, relying on their own recycled materials, and have that by that reducing their scope 3 and also in-housing those processes, and by that profiting from efficiency gains. Enough of me talking. I think now this is where it's supposed to become then the real fun of this session, going to our quiz. So as mentioned, and I hope this will work now, since the slides show so small, but this will work. We make it work, guys. We now have a short quiz, which is an extract, as I said, from the AXA Climate School. We have always engaging sustainability training videos, and those are accompanied by quiz questions. And those quiz questions I will have here now for you to answer in the interactive manner, so we can test our sustainability knowledge and our procurement knowledge. And this will be 7 questions where you only have 1 correct answer. And we will then have 3 winners at the end who answered the most of them correctly and the fastest way possible. So I hope now this is the QR code, and I hope you can scan this with another device. And I will also post the link to the quiz in the chat room. So you can also, if you like to, access this via this link, and you should have received it right now. Okay, maybe this is the link. And then we are ready to quiz all together. What's important, once you're logged in, please keep this tab open, because there you will be able to answer all the questions. Maybe if you logged in, could you give me a quick yes in the chat so that you're ready to quiz with me? Okay. Then I see a lot of thumbs up, so people are ready to quiz. Then let me switch over to the quiz, and I hope the screen will show bigger now. Sorry for that earlier. And all right, so then here we can jump to the interactive part of this session to finish up with. And everyone logged in, and then we can start with the first out of 7 questions. Let's go. How many planetary boundaries have we transgressed to date? Is that 6 out of 9, 4 out of 9, 2 out of 9, or 8 out of 9? And up here we see already answers coming in. And I think everyone has answered. So let's look at the answer together. Last 2 seconds. And we see that almost 70% of you have answered correctly. Correct, we have transgressed 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries. And here we have a quick leaderboard, who after the first question is leading the session with Edgar, Gigi, and Olivier, Siobhan, and some other guests 419 and guest 957 on the first spot. Second question. How much higher are Scope 3 emissions compared to a company's own activities? Is that 5 times, 2 times, 11 times, or 17 times? And already most of the answers coming in. Last 5 seconds. And it was quickly mentioned earlier that it's 11 times higher, making Scope 3 a very considerable part of your GHG emissions, with 11 times higher sometimes than Scope 1 and 2 emissions. All right, off to the third question. We have Edgar, Charlotte, and guest 419 leading in the pole positions. Third question. In what unit do we measure CO2 in the atmosphere? Is that in liters, joule, parts per million, cubic meters? Really appreciate the motivation here, always having those answers directly logged in. Very great. Last 3 seconds. And we see more than half of you answered this correctly. Yes, it's parts per million. That's we measure CO2, meaning a ppm, where we currently stand of 420, means 420 CO2 molecules in 1 million air molecules. And we have a new leader, guest 419, the anonymous quizmaster here leading the field. After the next question, natural carbon sinks absorb CO2 and thus reduce the greenhouse effect. What are the 2 main carbon sinks? Is that oceans and glaciers, oceans and vegetation, oceans and the earth core, or oceans and volcanoes? And going to the last 5 seconds. All answers logged in. And if you recall from earlier, it's oceans and vegetation that absorb about 50% of global CO2 emissions. And we have a new leader, Siobhan, is leading the field, followed by Edgar and guest 419. Let's go to the last questions. We learned about 3 ways to involve your suppliers. Which of the following is not one of them. Asking for certifications, push for the lowest possible price, support the decarbonization activities, and training them. And really appreciate how fast you guys are. So many answers already logged in again. And we see that almost all of you have that correctly. To push for the lowest price is not a way to involve your supplier, but the other three are. Siuban still on number one. Going to the next question. Which of the following is not a greenhouse gas? Is that water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, or phosphorus? Which of the following is not a greenhouse gas? Three seconds to go. And one third of you answered this correctly. And sorry for this tricky question. Yes, water vapor is indeed a greenhouse gas. It stays around 1 year in our atmosphere, and there's a lot of water vapor. And then also carbon dioxide and methane are common greenhouse gases, but phosphorus is not one of them. And we have still Siuban on number one, Edgar number two, and guest 419 on number three, followed by Mansi, Rakesh, Cheryl, guest 209, Charlotte, Olivier, and Myrene. Going to the last question. So again, bear with me, focus all on the question, and let's go all together. Which of the following circular economy principles can you apply in your procurement process? Is that to buy at a lower price, buy more frequently, focus exclusively on recycling, or reuse and refurbish? And the last 5 seconds to go. And yes, it's correct. What you can apply is reuse and refurbish, being two of the R's in the circular economy process. The other three are not part of them. And we have a winner, so please give it up to Edgar, Siuban, and the anonymous guest 419. Congratulations. Big ups to you guys. And if you think that you and your colleagues should also know about these questions and explore more about this, again, I will post here the access link to our procurement module where those questions are covered, and feel free to have a look and see what else you can discover in there. Thank you so much. And then also
The SVP pledge to me means being with like-minded people all together, driving sustainability in our supply chain. It's not to be perfect, but to favor speed over perfection and really driving impact and actions with our suppliers.
SVP has just been founded in 2019, and I'm so glad to see so much movement already. At the panel discussion, I was really happy to see so much leadership from the top and to see that so many people are thinking about how to integrate sustainability into their purchasing practices. Companies need to understand that strong institutions, transparency, the rule of law, this is the foundation for trade. Without this, companies cannot do anything.
I know it's difficult, but we hold that obligation as procurement professionals to raise it to a value game. Word price and put it away for a while we have these discussions. I think we'll get ahead of the game.
I don't think we're going to like the world we're in 2050. So let's just be frank. We don't have 2050 and we actually don't have 2040. We've got 2030. I'll make a bet with you. You're going to meet your 1 million members faster than you ever anticipated. I'm super excited that there's finally an organization who recognizes the power of the purchaser and procurement. Those who've been in the field, the unsung heroes of addressing the climate emergency, and I'm glad that SPP is giving them a voice locally, but also globally.
As an employee of a ministry here, I feel this is exactly what we need. We need to have these conversations. We need to be open with each other and to learn from each other to move forward together. So I'm really excited about SPP, about this panel, and I think I'm really happy to be part of this again in the future, if you allow me.
It's brilliant to see there is almost this sense of belonging for people within procurement to be able to discuss sustainability problems and challenges and ideas, and it's something that makes people feel they are not alone facing this big challenge that we have ahead.
I personally think that procurement is sexy, so I can't wait for SPP to put that in your tagline.